Hi, welcome to the show. Arif, Halaby, Total Financial Solutions, Safer Money Hour. Look, many of you have made mistakes in your life. Why I asked Sarah to come on the air with us months ago, actually, I think quite a long time ago, was simple because we had found that over time, many of you have made mistakes, right? 17, 18, 19, 20 years old. And look, if they had Facebook and Instagram and these iPhones when I was young, yeah. Total Financial Solutions from San Quentin Prison, right here live. No.
Yeah.
Right? You would just see the mistakes that people make today. You have a 16-year-old mind or a 20-year-old mind. It isn't mature. I don't care. I get it. It's the oldest you've ever been, so you think you're old. But let me tell you, when you go forward and you look back, you make some pretty dumb decisions and choices, and sometimes it's who you choose to hang around with. And when the person you choose to hang around with does something stupid, guess what you are? Guilty by association.
Right.
And now you're stuck in a circle where, okay, loyalty, do I rat out my friend? Oh no, I must say this. Right, you get stuck in this world of oh well, I guess it's only time served, or which means you're not going to prison because you were there for 3 days for a long weekend, and you get out and they say, well, that's enough time. But boom, you now have a conviction. You're like, but the guy told me, or the attorney said, or it was a public defender who had 75 cases and you're just one of them. I understand you make mistakes. There is a chance for some of you to fix that. And you might say, oh, I'm fine, I work. Look, who cares about you? It's not about you anymore. It's about your wife and your children, or your husband and your kids, or your grandchildren. It's about others in your life that say, hey, I count on this person. So an organization like CLA, Christian Legal Aid of Los Angeles, I think is kind of cool because it sits down and it says, I'm going to give you a second chance. Some of you deserve a second chance. Some of you might even deserve a third chance. And it says, let's see if we can help get your life in order. There may have been a dishonest situation and you were a part of it, a true victim. There may have been a time when you were, using drugs or alcohol or something and you just weren't thinking right, and it was your fault, absolutely. So I want to encourage you to contact Christian Legal Aid of Los Angeles. Joining us is the director, Sarah McKendrick. Sarah, as a Pepperdine Law School grad, pretty impressed about that. Doesn't mean anything really, just like whatever. Yeah. Sylmar High School, whoop.
James Monroe High School.
Oh, we fought you guys in football regularly. That was our rival. All right, so they're not bad. But we have Christian Legal Aid of Los Angeles. How do I get a hold of you? If I have listeners that are out there saying, I want to make a difference, maybe I'm going to reach out. Maybe I'm going to call from work so that nobody knows that it's, at home, or I'm going to call from home so nobody at work knows. How do I reach out to you?
Absolutely. You can give us a call at 323-319-3559, and you will be able to speak to someone in our office who will give you information about our upcoming clinics.
And the clinics, is that the first place to start, or would it be to even come down to your location?
The clinic would be the first place to start.
Okay. And the clinic itself, you said you have a couple of them coming up on our web address of CLA-LA.org. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct.
So CLA-LA.org is Christian Legal Aid of Los Angeles. Of course, you can go to that big Google machine you have and type in Christian Legal Aid of Los Angeles.
Dangerous Google. So, Sarah, what can someone expect at a clinic? Because I think some people think a clinic is kind of like an informational seminar, and others might think it's just an open house for people to come in and get some FaceTime with an attorney. What can someone expect at the next clinic?
Right. So we typically do intake an hour before clients are actually seen by an attorney. So we will talk to clients and have them line up and fill out an intake form so that we're able to get their information down as well as see what their legal issue is. And that helps us to match them up appropriately to the proper team of attorneys who'll be able to help them with their case. And then in the meantime, while they're there, they're waiting to be served. We'll serve some snacks, maybe lunch might be provided as well, and have some volunteers who are there are willing to sit and listen to them and pray with them if they would like to receive prayer. And then after we are able to assign the cases, they are able to go back into the room where all of our attorneys are serving and sit with a team that will speak to them about their legal issue.
And because
do they need to bring anything? I mean, or can they just kind of just show up as they are and then they'll get some guidance from there?
Right. It's it's best to come prepared. So
Okay.
bring all documents related to the legal issue at hand, especially with expungements. We can't help with filling out any of the forms if we don't have the record in front of us.
Yeah, we're going to need dates and codes and statutes, etc. One of the things that is kind of, I think for most people, especially later on in life, there's a level of embarrassment, guilt, shame, being ashamed. Those feelings run deep. You guys appreciate that and deal with that, I'm sure.
We do, and the reality is that all of us need second chances and third chances and many, many more chances.
Yeah.
And so because of that, for clients who come in, we truly just want to be able to serve and honor them.
So the things that they talk about with you or the other attorneys, because it's in a client-attorney relationship, and we secure that, right? There's documents that say this is a client-attorney relationship, not just me talking to you in the grocery store line. What we talk about is private. Is that how it goes?
Yes, it is private.
Folks, your conversations are protected by attorney-client privilege. Now, if you say you're going to, find a way to poison your ex, probably not.
Ill-advised.
Yeah, don't do that, because then you go right back to jail and starts all over again. But if you're talking about how do I fix my legal issues, and if you're saying, hey, look, I've got some concerns, here's a place to get started. Christian Legal Aid of Los Angeles. Go to cla-la.org. You can also go to hometownstation.com, hometownstation.com. Click on Total Financial Solutions. Shoot us an email. We'll be happy to send you this information as well. Okay, Sarah McKendricks, Director of Christian Legal Aid of Los Angeles. You're talking about an expungement or dismissal. For those just joining us, tell us what that is and what that means, and then the process. How does the process go? Somebody walks in and says, hey, when I was 19 years old, I stole money from the till of a coffee shop I worked at. What do I do? And I got convicted of theft. Time served, so it wasn't any state prison time, but they do have a conviction of theft, and because that, they can't work in certain industries forever.
Right. So what we will do is we'll have the client come in and we'll review their docket, the information that they are able to get about their criminal history and record from the courthouse, and they can go to the local courthouse or the courthouse where they were convicted to get that. And when they give that to us, we're able to see what the conviction actually was and how it was charged, whether as a felony or as a misdemeanor. In the case of theft, most likely a misdemeanor, and then we're able to get the proper forms and help fill that out for them right there on the spot, and then direct them to the proper courthouse and what they need to do in order to get that expunged, to bring that documentation to the courthouse. It's already filled out. We have all of the copies that they need. If they need to serve the DA or the city prosecutor, we have that already available for them as well, with information, step-by-step guidance on what happens next and what to expect.
So what does expungement mean? Explain that for the lay people.
Right.
Like Jeff.
Well, in California, there's no such thing as an expungement, but it is the term of art that most people are familiar with. So what an expungement, or really a dismissal in this case, will do is for an individual who is able to go to the court and the judge will look over the forms and approve this dismissal, it essentially will take a look at the charge and remove the guilty conviction and say set aside. So it'll state that the conviction was dismissed. And so on job applications, particularly for private employers, the client can say truthfully, assuming that was the only conviction that they had had and it was dismissed, that they do not have any convictions on their record. This changes, in particularly for if you're trying to apply for licenses or government jobs, or working with individuals who are at risk, such as children or the elderly, or those who have disabilities. So for those, you definitely want to explain that yes, you did have a conviction, but then mention it was dismissed.
Okay. So still getting a job with a defense contractor. We have a lot of folks that work for Boeing and Northrop and Lockheed and Raytheon, the good old days. Some of those companies still exist, or parts or pieces of them, and they have great jobs, wonderful jobs. What happens if somebody has a conviction like that 15, 20, 25 years ago? and then they go through this dismissal process. Does that affect those types of maybe secret or top secret type clearances?
I'm not quite sure.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know that answer.
Yeah.
So it may, and if you're in a position, folks, where for a lot of people they say, listen, I could get that job, but it requires X, but I can't do that because of this. Speak with these attorneys. Go to Christian Legal Aid of Los Angeles. You might have a great opportunity to sit down and learn what some of those nuances are that need to take place in order for you to be the one to either remove it from your record or at least get that set aside. I know on many occasions with certain convictions through the court system, when I was a policeman and we were putting folks in jail pretty regularly, sometimes if it was not the getaway driver but the passenger in a car in which they were in pursuit, right? They didn't have any control. We might arrest everybody and check everybody out, and maybe you would put them in jail for the moment or whatever, and then the DA might come and say, you know what, not for that person, we're going to not charge them. So they may have had a charge but not a conviction. Is it that same type of a thing? It's a charge but not a conviction, or it's a conviction but it's a set aside? I don't.
Right. This refers to convictions specifically.
Right. So
there
but
was
does it show the same? So would both of those people on their record have the same kind of result?
Well, if they went to court and did have a charge brought against them and were convicted,
yes,
that is what an expungement will help remove.
Certainly.
But it will not help individuals who have arrests on the record. Arrests do show up.
So arrest is still an arrest.
Yes.
If that person was not charged, it will say arrested but not charged. The other person in which we're going through the expungement will say arrested and charged, but set aside.
Yes.
Okay. So it's a one extra step, but it's certainly not a conviction. And how about felonies? Can felonies ever be dismissed or expunged?
Yes, there are certain felonies that can be expunged, particularly some felonies that individuals did not serve prison time for.
Oh, any examples?
Typically wobbler offenses.
Okay, which sit on the side of a misdemeanor or felony where the DA can charge you one way or the other.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, that's interesting. And sometimes it might even be easier. There are some misdemeanors that could also be charged as an infraction. For example, when I worked the beach detail, we used to write tickets for people that were drinking in public, and that would be an LA Municipal Code misdemeanor, but we would charge it often as an infraction or doing other things in public that they would get a ticket for as opposed to go to jail.
Like not putting the trash all the way in the trash can.
I don't think I've ever done one of those.
Oh.
We were LA, not Beverly Hills. Those guys, they're bored. They would write those tickets. They're like, shooting? Or somebody, peeing on the sidewalk. We took the shooting. A little bit of a different.
I'm thinking of, you mentioned at-risk individuals. I think of a lot of teenagers, late teens, early 20s that are on the cusp of starting this horrible life that they think is irreversible. Their victim mindset, or my folks were involved in gangs or drugs, whatever, and that means I have to do that. If they think that there's any ounce of hope, they may not continue down that path. If they say, look, I've caught this early, or someone enlightened them to say, I don't have to keep doing this. Okay, because look, some people will just throw all the cards down. They'll just go, you know what, forget it. I'm already a criminal. I'm never, ever going to be looked at as an individual, anybody respectable. I'm never going to get a great job. I might as well just keep doing what I'm doing. But if they have a chance, they think that there's a chance, they could stop it at 1 or even 2 convictions potentially, reverse their record, and then have a good chance instead of keep, spiraling down that really sad life.
Yes, that is so true. And in fact, one of our partners, Homeboy Industries in downtown LA, and with a father, Gregory Boyle, works with that exact population.
Wow.
And do you see that folks, do you ever go out and speak at high schools or that kind of, junior colleges, community colleges, 19, 20-year-olds? Do you ever get in that?
Yes, I do. I do go to high schools when I am able.
Yeah, because I can see that, as Jeff was saying. I never thought about that, Jeff. What a great point, where somebody like Christian Legal Aid of Los Angeles can get into that layer and kind of stop it before it gets worse, and kind of catch it in.
Like an early intervention for some folks.
So What's on the horizon for Christian Legal Aid of Los Angeles? What do you have coming up the rest of this year? You mentioned something about Lancaster coming up.
Yes, on November 19th, we will be having a legal clinic up in Lancaster at the LA County Law Library in Lancaster.
Okay, where is that? That sounds like an oxymoron.
What? Lancaster is part of LA County.
Oh, yes, it is. I didn't know they had a legal, what was that, a law library?
Not a law library, the LA County Library.
Oh,
in
LA County
Lancaster.
Library, gotcha. I was like, there's a law library up there?
So,
What is that, the jail?
so that is coming up. We have quite a few more clinics down here in Los Angeles. I mentioned the one in Watts coming up this month and in Inglewood. And then we have our prayer breakfast, which I would love to invite all of you to attend. It is free. It's at the conference center at Cathedral Plaza in downtown LA.
Is that the new church right off the freeway there?
Yeah, that beautiful
Yes, beautiful church.
Our Lady of the Angels. Yes.
Nice.
And that will be on November 5th.
November 5th.
Yes, at 9 a.m.
And I'm sure there's information on the website.
Yes.
Christian Legal Aid of Los Angeles, folks. Website is cla-la.org. We're going to take a break here in just a minute and say goodbye to Sarah McKendricks, folks. Sarah McKendricks, give us the phone number one more time.
It is 323-319-3559.
Folks, Christian Legal Aid of Los Angeles. You might have a chance if you have a mistake, if you've done some things in the past, we want to get that expunged. Certainly in California, it's called a dismissal. Or more importantly, what if you just have a legal question? Maybe you're not sure if you have your rights to do something or not to do something. Neighbor disputes, probably just about anything, I'm guessing.
Anything under the sun.
Anything legal under the sun, and then some. That should be a t-shirt. Thanks for joining us. We'll be right back on Total Financial Solutions Safer Money Hour. I'm Arif Halaby along with Jeff Gerard. And thank you to our special guest, Sarah McKendricks from Christian Legal Aid of Los Angeles. We'll be right back.
Hey, welcome back to the show, Total Financial Solutions Safer Money Hour. Thanks for joining us. If you're just coming into the program here, we had a wonderful guest, Sarah McKendricks, the director of Christian Legal Aid of Los Angeles, which is basically a group comprised of volunteer attorneys of multiple backgrounds. And when I'm learning about this organization is that there are multiple layers here that I didn't even really realize that exist. Having an organization of volunteer attorneys means that they're basically giving you legal face time to ask questions, to air out problems, and to see if there's something that is actually a case that can come of something. Also, if you have a criminal background, if you have a past that maybe you're not so proud of, you might just have a chance to have a little bit of a reset button here with some of the instances that may be holding you back from maybe a potential promotion, a job with another organization. I think so many layers are a part of this that people don't even realize they may need legal aid. And here we have a free service from, and I say free with an asterisk because it's somebody's time that's being donated, but no cost to the folks that can benefit from the things that this organization does.
You know, lately we're hearing this buzzword of overcharged. These people were overcharged. It's kind of like talking about air. It doesn't really exist. I don't think there's any such thing as overcharged. They're either charged because they have the evidence or they're not. If they're charged for the evidence, then they are. If they're not, then that's illegal or certainly misconduct. Overcharged is some sort of you would treat these people a little bit different by throwing the book at them. Well, that's a conviction thing. The point is, there are some of you that made mistakes. Maybe you're not super proud of them. You have to realize that the system has pieces and parts to it, all the way along the way. Law enforcement's job is to catch you, not to determine guilt. That's why they don't and shouldn't be administering justice or whatever it might be called, a punishment out on the streets. That's not their job. Their job is to detain and arrest. If that's the case, put you in jail, then the courts decide, the next step. And everybody along the system has a process. The problem is you get lost in that process really quickly, especially if you're somebody without any financial means or with very little personal connections. Now, I'm not one to say that everybody in jail should stay there for the rest of their life. I don't think that. I honestly believe that people do need second chances. But I also think you have to pay for what you do. And, we're all a part of that. right? If somebody cheats on their taxes, or if somebody doesn't prepare for their retirement, they're going to have different consequences.
Right.
Right? If somebody goes through a red light, and I used this example the other night. If you closed your eyes and ran across a freeway with your eyes closed at 2 o'clock in the morning, and you did not get hit by a car, and you made it, was that still a good idea? Of course not. So just because you've done some stuff illegally and you haven't gotten caught, it doesn't mean it was a good idea. Or what if you did, and you're that, every once in a while people go, oh, that's the first time I ever, and I got caught. Chances are that's not the case, but it could be. There might be one or two people out there, or percentage-wise, whatever that is, where they do something, they get caught, they have a problem, now what do you do? So I like Christian legal aid for that. And I think more importantly, with all of that, it can keep a problem from being a bigger problem, because they have neighbor disputes they can discuss, family law matters. What if you have child custody issues? What if you have a concern about a divorce or separation, but you're not sure if you should do one or the other or neither? So there are some great conversations to be had, and it sounds like an hour to an hour and a half, it depends. Now you might say, why do these attorneys do this? Look, every attorney, believe it or not, has a job to do in the world of volunteering. They actually are required by professional standards. I'm not saying all of them do it, but they are required to donate a portion of their time every month or every year. It could be to the guy or gal that's just not going to ever pay. They might charge you, but it's just never going to get paid. It could be to the person in a public organization where they go out and they volunteer their time to give back for certain legal advice or legal opinions. It's more than just, helping out at a food pantry or a homeless shelter. It's literally legal work, and they're required to do a certain amount of hours. I don't know what it is, maybe 10 hours a year or something of that nature. So this could be a part of that, except most of these attorneys do a lot more than what is the minimum that's expected. They actually put in a greater amount of work, and they do it from a Christian perspective. So if you happen to have a leaning towards that, or you like some of the Judeo-Christian values, it could be a very good point to follow.
Well, and I think this is something that has multiple layers that I did not even know existed. We look at this as a chance for people to be in front of an attorney, but look at the time that someone can be saved and the amount of resource that can be saved by not trying to go into the legal system blindly. So many people are either like I said earlier, they'll disqualify themselves, or they'll just shy away from the process altogether. And here you can have someone that knows exactly what to do, or at least we hope they do. They would find you a specialist in the area of your concern or where you have a need, and they put you in front of that person, and that person doesn't by any means do the work for you, but it's a nice thing to have someone in front of you kind of holding your hand through the process and guiding you and saying, look, here are the steps that it's going to take. They can look at the problem, say, there is something we can do here. Number one, I think that would be the first part, is having hope in being able to solve the problem at the get-go. And then to say, okay, here's my analysis. I think it's going to take X amount of steps to get this done. And by the way, here's the amount of time it may take. It may take us 3 months. It may take us 9 months. It may take us 2 years to get through this process, from the day you walk in the door to the other side, and you come out clean on the other side, whether it's a dispute that you had with someone, or someone was attacking you, or you had a record that needed to be expunged or dismissed. So I think right here, this will give you that amount of hope. And then you have basically a playbook, a legal playbook to go and have a means to take care of your concerns. I think that's a beautiful thing, and I really didn't even realize all of the parts that existed as part of this organization.
Okay, remember I said 10 hours? I just checked real quick. It's about 50 hours of pro bono public work and legal services per year is what the American Bar Association, with an emphasis to help those with limited or no means, basically helping the poor. I think that's kind of cool. If you do the math at $300 an hour, I don't know if that's average or not, but that's
It's feasible.
Was it $15,000?
Wow.
In donation of the time and legal. So now you have somebody like that. Now, if you tell me, hey, Arif, would you be willing as a taxpayer to give a certain break to lawyers that are volunteering their time as far as student loans go? Or absolutely, I would. Right? Because now it's an investment in the future. Somebody who's going to have a degree where they're not going to give back to to the public, they still, of course, have the regular student loan rules. But as far as anything beneficial beyond that, it's not in the interest of the public to do that. So do you see the difference, right? You're volunteering your time with the skill set. Not just anybody volunteers at, helps feed a homeless shelter and you have a degree in nuclear science. That's nothing. Anybody can do that. It's beyond that. It's that using that degree for the betterment of the public good, then it's in society's best interest to give those dollars at a discount to you for school. Okay, want to touch on a couple of things here. Next week's show, we're going to get in reasons why you may need life insurance in retirement. We're seeing more and more people that are retired or going to be retired, and they're not sure if it makes sense to continue life insurance through retirement. Well,
or folks entering retirement that have never even had life insurance.
There are some benefits that just might change the way you think about retirement, especially when it comes to planning and, if you will, carrying a life insurance policy into or through or out of your retirement life. It's not right for everybody. You don't do it all the time, but for the right person, it just might make a difference, and we're going to cover that. I think we have 8 or 10 reasons why we're going to touch on that as well.
That's a good point, because so many people leave that on the table and don't realize that can be the difference between staying retired or having to go back to work 10 or 15 years after the fact.
Okay, so we're looking at a scary thing that's happening, right, in the U.S. economy. Everybody's jumping up and down and worried about this and worried about what's happening, if you will, with Russia and China and this. I want you to consider a couple of things. There are some concerns that you and I have with the debt. So what is the difference between debt and deficit? Well, we're going to leave you with this hour of the program with a little bit, I don't know if a trivia question, but a little bit of a vocabulary lesson. Debt is how much is already on the books. So for example, if you have $10,000 in credit card debt, you have a debt of $10,000. The United States has a debt of 19 trillion with a T. Now, I know you're not going to get your head around it, and you may not know the difference between a trillion and a billion and a million. Fine. Just know it is lots of money. Okay, 19 trillion. Number 2, deficit. What is a deficit? That means every month, if you make $6,000 a month and you spend $7,000 a month, you have a deficit of $1,000. Okay? So you can make $6,000 and spend $6,000 and have zero deficit, but hey, remember that credit card debt you had before? You still are in debt. So what you have to do in order to get out of debt is make more than you spend. So make $6,000 and spend $5,000, and then you take the difference and you use it to pay off your debt. And then you will be debt-free and not have a deficit. Simple enough, right? So what are we doing as a country? Well, we are going backwards by a deficit of around $1 trillion per year. Okay.
$1 trillion per year.
$1 trillion per year. Now, that is a big deal because in your lifetime and in my lifetime, the 19 trillion that is currently there will probably not be paid off. Now, you might be 2 years old, maybe it will be paid off. That means somebody has to pay this back. It is difficult. The only way to do it is for you to stop making $6,000 a month and make 7 or 8, and not spend $6,000 but spend 5 or 4. So if you're making $8,000 and you're spending $4,000, now you can pay off that debt a whole lot faster, huh? Same thing. So if we as a nation are creating jobs and you're encouraging small and medium businesses to continue to hire, because that's the engine. That's the meat. That's what's growing everybody's wealth, if you will, is that medium source of jobs that are employing 50 people, 20 people, 200 people. That's the meat, okay? The more of those that you have, the more those people will go get their dry cleaning done and go out to dinner and go get to a show, right? Those things start to happen and you create wealth. So we as a nation have to continue to eliminate the deficit by stop spending more than we make. What are we, 800 billion to $1 trillion? We think we'll probably go over $1 trillion this year. That's a heck of a lot of money, you guys.
It is.
Added to the 19.
It almost leaves me speechless, because if you look at our track record and how quickly we went from, I think it was 3 trillion up to where we are now, that short period of time, that's hemorrhaging money.
A lot of things are changing. Here's part of the challenge. You realize that the people that are going to have to pay this back are not normally going to be your 26-year-old kid who sleeps on the couch with $50,000 in student loan debt. They don't have any money. Most likely it's not going to be them. It's going to be you, the baby boomer, the 70 million plus of you that have saved some money for retirement, did what you were supposed to do, saved 50 or 500,000 or $1 million, or you have a pension, or you paid off your house. You're the one that is now going to be taxed. I think it has to be this way, at a higher rate. My opinion, I think they have to find a way to increase the money coming in, and the only people to do it is not the 30-year-old with a part-time job and student loan debt who can't pay their bills. They're not going to raise taxes because they don't have any money. I think it's going to be, instead, the folks on the other side of the food chain, which is the ones that are post-retirement. So you have to protect yourself, and this is a lead-in into next week's show where you get a chance maybe to see how life insurance, if your goal is to leave money for the next generation, how do you do that? Follow us and a whole lot more on hometownstation.com. Click on Total Financial Solutions, get you tips and tricks. You can even sign up for our newsletter. We have an amazing newsletter. It goes out every week, every other week, and you get a chance to follow up on whatever current events we see are important. Thanks for listening. I'm Arif Halaby. That's Jeff Gerard. And thanks again for Christian Legal Aid of Los Angeles. Go to hometownstation.com and we'll get you their information as well. I'm Arif Halaby on AM 1220 KHTS.